Hi friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm excited to be doing a collaboration with the Whimsy Stamps and Brutus Monroe. I received these three awesome goodies. I have some embossing powder in Alabaster White. I also have some chunky glitter glaze with silver moons. I just love this. Look how beautiful and shiny it is. And I also have the candy apple red chroma mist. So these three products are all new to me. I mean, I've used embossing powder before and some glazes and mists, but I've never tried Brutus Monroe products before, so I was so excited. So I thought I would try the mist. I just put a piece of paper in my little splatter box and sprayed it around. And then I thought I wanted to really soak up this paper, so I just grabbed a paintbrush and finished coloring in the gaps. And now the Chroma Mist said it's water-based, so I thought I would splash some water and see if I could cause a reaction within the ink to create some water droplets. And as you can see, they're already forming and I'm absolutely loving it. I went ahead and grabbed a paper towel to just press off the excess water, and of course it left an imprint of my paper towel. So then I just decided to dab it and try to get rid of that design of my Costco paper towels in my background. But I really love it. I love that it created those water droplets and made a really fun, bright red, almost bright pink look. So then I wanted to try my chunky glitter glaze with the silver moon. So I grabbed a stencil. This is the Making Wave stencil, as well as a spatula. And I'm just going to use my magnets to hold my stencil in place. And then I'm going to grab some of this moon chunky glitter glaze, and I'm just going to wipe that on to my gray background, just the top here. I just wanted to try it out with one of these waves in my stencil. So I went ahead and applied some on, and then I'm very gently, I do speed up my video, so this is 2 times, so I am going slower than what it looks like, and just lightly spreading that glaze down. Because I have a more detailed stencil and these moons are chunky, I didn't want to risk lifting up my stencil and getting glaze where I didn't want it. And then I just cleaned up anything I could save and put it back inside my jar. And then I'm going to peel off my stencil for the best part, the reveal. And you can see it created this really cool design with those moons on my cardstock. And I absolutely love it. I love the shine. I love the little moons. So I'm going to set that aside to dry and go clean off my stencil. The last thing is to try this Alabaster white embossing powder. So I'm grabbing the brand new Woodland Silhouettes clear stamps, and I'm going to stamp this tree 3 times. So you're only going to see me stamp it once and apply the embossing powder once, but I do this a total of 3 times. I'm adding some VersaMark to my stamp, pressing that down onto some gray cardstock. This is the same cardstock that I did that moon glaze on. And then I'm going to apply my Alabaster white embossing powder. Now I did treat my paper with my anti-static tool, so I did have a little help from that, but overall I really like this embossing powder. I thought it did a really great job. I love the vibrancy of that white. It's beautiful. So I'm going to grab a Swiffer and wipe off that anti-static powder off my cardstock, and then I'm going to fussy cut all 3 of these trees out. I'm going to spare you from watching me do that, but as you can see, I just move my paper along my scissors to fussy cut around each of those different parts of my trees. And now that those trees are done, I'm just going to set them aside, and I'm going to bring back that Chroma Mist cardstock, and I'm going to die cut it with the banner die from the Whimsy Stamps Slimline Fancy Frame die, and it creates this really pretty die cut with some score lines so I can make a folded banner. So now I have my trees, my folded banner, and my background, which is pretty dry. It could still dry a little more, but I'm not going to touch the glaze, so I can continue on with my card without disturbing anything. And I'm layering my card how I think it's going to go, but I wanted to add some white snowy hill on my card. So I just used my curved border from the Stitch Border Die Trio, and I'm adding some glue to adhere that to my background. But before I glue it down, I remembered that I wanted to layer some trees behind my snowy hill. So quickly, I'm going to add 2 of my trees. I'm going to stack them so there's 2 more towards the left of my card and 1 tree on the right. So I'm gluing 1 down that's a little off center to the left, and then I'm going to glue another tree a little bit further down on my card base and to the right. And I'm going to have these trees go off the edge of my card. No big deal, I'm going to trim them off later. So now I'm going to add that snowy hill onto my card base. The glue didn't dry, so I was still good. And then I'm going to add this last tree in front of my snow and a little bit lower to the left. Again, it's okay that the tree hangs off the edge because I'm just going to trim it off with some large scissors. So I'm really liking my tree placement. I think it looks nice. So I'm going to grab my nonstick scissors and trim off the bottom and the side. So anything that was hanging off the edge of my gray cardstock background is now trimmed off and perfectly framed. So now I want to add my banner, which I want to emboss a sentiment on first. So I'm playing around and I'm still really liking it kind of hanging out above the trees there. So I flattened back out my banner and I'm grabbing a sentiment from the Woodland Silhouette stamp set. I'm grabbing a clear block and just trying to kind of bend my clear stamp so that way it follows the curve of that banner die cut. I'm going to grab my anti-static tool and add some powder to my banner strip, grabbing that VersaMark again and stamping out Happy Holidays to the center of that banner. I'm going to repeat my embossing process with that same Alabaster white ultrafine embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. I'm using a coffee filter just to help catch that embossing powder, and it makes it easier to pour it back into my container. I've melted down the embossing powder with my heat gun, and I'm going to grab a foam adhesive strip and place that to the back center part of my sentiment banner. And then I'm going to use some wet glue to the pieces that kind of bend behind my sentiment and will be adhering directly to the card base. So added that wet glue, peeled off the release paper from the foam adhesive, and I'm adding this to my card. I'm really loving this pop of bright red or bright pink on this gray and white background. I just think it's such a fun way to create a holiday card. So I've cut my card base. I love making top folding A2 card bases, and then I'm using some wet glue, and I'm going to add glue behind this gray piece of cardstock and adhere this directly to the center of my card base. I cut this gray cardstock down to be 4 by 5 1/4, so that way I had a nice border of my card base around my design. So I'm pressing everything down, trying not to smear any of my pretty moons. And here is my final card. I love it. I hope you love it too. These new products are awesome. You can use the links down below to check out the Brutus Monroe products as well as the Whimsy Stamps products that I used on this card today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I sure hope you'll click like. And if you're new, I hope I've inspired you to subscribe and come back. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.